Hello, welcome. This is not lot number 9. This is number 9 from Dawson's Fine Art Auctioneers here in Maidenhead. This time, I thought I'd just touch upon an area where I'm often asked when people ask what I do. They say, "What's the strangest thing you've sold?" Well, it could be all sorts of different things. I mean, I've sold some pretty strange things over the years. Not an auctioneer now, just purely a valuer. But over the years, I suppose one of the strangest things I've sold would be a Tibetan Tantric skull, which is, as it's billed, it's a skull, usually of a monk's skull, and you see the Tibetan concept of serenity, the idea of serenity and enlightenment resides in the skull, in the brain, you see. And these monks, once they die, they can give over their skull to be, bear with me, don't, I hope you're not eating, to be stripped of its flesh, the top of the skull cut off, trepanned, if that's the correct term. And sometimes they can be embellished with semi-precious stones and gold or silver, usually silver strap work. And the idea is that you give libation with the cup, which is actually the former monk's skull, and then the top is just placed on the top. So that was a strange one, and that sat on my desk in Oxfordshire for a couple of months, and I kept my paper clips in it. What else have I sold? um, Interestingly, from local source lately, I sold a collection of 1.5-inch steam engines, live fire steam engines. That was interesting. You learn from everything, every encounter that you have, you learn from. And having spent, oh my God, I'm really old, a long time in this business, you encounter things which at that time you don't understand, and you don't know what they are, and you haven't really got an answer for. And I remember early on I used to do these valuation events, and I must have been imbued with far more confidence than I would have now, because I think as you get older, you realise how little you really know. I think that's I think the cocksure attitude of the callow youth dissolves over the years, and you realise that you're just a traveller on the silken road. Really, you don't know as much as you think you did. And I remember doing a valuation event. I think it was in Northamptonshire, and a chap turning up with an orb, a sort of silver orb, with a sort of a stylized flame coming out the top, also in silver. And this orb, it was counterweighted so that you couldn't knock it over. A bit like a weeble, a weeble. There we are. That's one for the teenagers. There we are. And so he presented me with this thing. I didn't know what it was at the time. And some years later, I had chance to deal with some regimental silver, and found out that this was actually a Grenadiers mess cigar lighter. And the idea was that there was, out of the top sort of flame type finial, a small wick would have gone in there, and it would have been positioned on the tray with the cigars for after dinner, of course. And the idea was that it couldn't tip over. I should think in actual fact it was quite dangerous. But of course, the clue was there. It was self-evident, and it was the Grenadiers symbol, of course, of the grenade, of the flaming grenade. But you see, these are all things that you learn as you go along. You encounter things, and they are there. I remember my first encounter with a piece of George Tinworth's work, and thinking, "Oh my God, it looks as if it looks as if a child made this." And they were it's a piece of pottery with mice having a sing song, and another mouse playing the piano. They can be worth, well, they used to be worth several £1,000s. I don't know currently what they're worth, but they're still very sought after. In actual fact, I've sold armored cars, Humber Pig armored cars. That was interesting. We had a day to assemble the armored cars, and on an airfield, and we did. And those Humber Pigs, they've got quite a turn of speed. Straight six cylinder Rolls Royce engine in them. And the thing that made me laugh was the fact that they're all heavily armoured from the outside, and as you walk on the inside, you walk across the belly pan, and the thing flexes. So completely armoured on the outside, but underneath not so. That was interesting. What else have I sold? I sold the robe chests, which had been given to Harry Parks. So Harry Parks by the Meiji Emperor, because he'd been set upon by ruffians on his way to see the emperor, and he was so distressed that his guest should have been accosted by these robbers, that he gave him his own personal robe chests, which were emblazoned with. They were old family pieces. They were emblazoned with Tokugawa mons. Sold those. I sold one of the strangest ones I ever sold. Was a collection of perfume bottles in Leicestershire, which there were over 4,000 perfume bottles, and you're probably thinking, perfume bottles. But, you've got to bear in mind that there are some important perfume bottles out there. I mean, to touch upon one name, you've got the works of René Lalique. He worked for Coty, and other people. So you've got those, and we sold everything from tiny little Shuko teddy bear scent files, where the teddy bear's torso opens, the head hinges back, and the torso opens up, and there's a little file of perfume. We sold large factice bottles, which are usually full of just, well, at this stage, rancid water, but they look the part. We sold probably 200 weight of powder compacts. It was one man's collection. It was a call on a Friday afternoon, and it was a deceased estate. And I met the gentleman, and he said, "Are you ready for this?" And I think I probably had a bit of a chip on my shoulder at the time. I think I was a young man doing it was always expected that I'd be older than I. When I rocked up, I think they expected to see someone slightly older than I was. That's why my job got easier when my hair fell out. And what happened was, he said, "Are you sure you're ready for this?" And I said, "Of course I am." Sort of bristling with indignation. And as he opened the door, I can always remember it. He opened the door, and the fog of perfume. It was a scorching hot day, nearly knocked me over. And he had given his whole house over to this thing. The sofa was full of perfume bottles. In the kitchen, they were on the shelves, they were in the cupboards, they were in the fridge, they were in the microwave. I kid you not. They were literally all over. And we sold them, and it was incredible. I was very skeptical to start with about whether or not we'd get any interest. And I think a lady came from Sweden and a lady came from Paris to buy the lion's share of these things, and I think we sold 98% of them, which is good going. There were some interesting ones amongst them, some with stories associated. And interestingly, this chap by profession, his first love wasn't perfume bottles. He was a taxidermist. I know this sounds unlikely, and you really couldn't write this stuff. And I suppose this would be marketing gold dust, I guess. But what this is a true story. And he was a taxidermist by profession, and so most of the house was given over to perfume bottles, powder compacts, advertising prints, and the rest were rather strange taxidermist arrangements. So we had a flock of Canada geese, which being of a slightly impish nature, I decided that we were going to suspend from the lighting track. But I hadn't counted with the fact that it was a cold day when we conducted the sale, so we had to have the heating on. And so when the heating ducts blew out the hot air, it caused the geese to sort of appear to be flying. So it was an interesting sale. I'm sure there are many more. I'll probably remember as soon as we stop recording. I think that's probably about it for the moment. Thank you very much. Bye.